In the depths of space, aboard the stealth vessel Silent Strike, Kixtall prepared for what should have been a routine assassination. Their crystalline exoskeleton shifted colors in the dim light, a natural camouflage that had served them well through centuries of successful missions. The target, Sarah Chen, a human scientist who had developed a revolutionary terraforming technique that threatened the Empire's control over habitable worlds. Kixtall had studied humans extensively before this mission. Their short lifespans, fragile bodies, and primitive technology should have made them easy targets, yet something about this assignment felt different. The mission briefing had included an unusual warning. Exercise extreme caution. Previous operatives have exhibited concerning behavioral changes after prolonged human contact. The stealth ship settled into orbit around the terraforming outpost on Europa. Through enhanced optical sensors, Kixtall observed their target working alone in the research station. Sarah Chen moved with purpose between holographic displays, her dark hair streaked with premature gray, her face marked by laugh lines that seemed at odds with someone working in such isolation. The plan was simple. Sabotage the station's life support systems, make it look like an equipment malfunction. No one would question another human dying in the harsh environment of Jupiter's moon. Kixtall infiltrated the station's maintenance ducts with practiced ease, their body perfectly adapted to moving through the tight spaces. But as they prepared to initiate the sabotage sequence, something unexpected happened. An emergency alert blared through the station. Warning: external breach detected. Pressure loss in Sector 7. Emergency protocols initiated. Kixtall watched in fascination as Sarah Chen's response defied all predicted behavior patterns. Instead of rushing to the escape pod as any rational being would, she ran toward the danger. Through the station's internal cameras, they observed her accessing emergency protocols and sealing off sections of the station. "Station, give me visual on Sector 7, she commanded. The holographic display showed 3 maintenance workers trapped by the breach, their magnetic boots keeping them anchored as precious atmosphere vented into space. Initiating emergency rescue protocol, Sarah announced to no one in particular. She began rerouting power from non-essential systems, including life support in her own section, to maintain the emergency force fields around the trapped workers. Kixtall's sensory appendages trembled as they processed this information. The target was sacrificing her own safety margin for others. Their intelligence had indicated humans were individualistic, prioritizing personal survival. Yet here was evidence to the contrary. The assassin watched as Sarah worked tirelessly for hours, coordinating with rescue teams, maintaining failing systems through sheer force of will. When the workers were finally saved, she didn't seek recognition or reward. Instead, she immediately began analyzing the breach to prevent future incidents. That night, as Sarah finally rested in her quarters, Kixtall had the perfect opportunity to complete their mission. The target was exhausted, systems were still recovering, and any death would be attributed to the day's stress. Their poison-producing glands had already synthesized a toxin that would simulate heart failure. But for the first time in 3 centuries of service, Kixtall hesitated. They accessed the station's database, reviewing Sarah Chen's work. The terraforming technology wasn't just about creating habitable worlds. It was designed to rehabilitate planets the Empire had stripped bare, to restore ecosystems destroyed by centuries of exploitation. And she had made the research open source, freely available to any species that wanted to use it. Dawn found Kixtall sending an unprecedented message to the Guild. Contract refused. Target demonstrates fundamental nobility incompatible with termination parameters, requesting full investigation into human behavioral patterns. As their ship broke orbit, Kixtall knew they had just committed an unforgivable breach of Guild protocol. But watching Sarah Chen begin another day's work, already focused on helping others, they understood that something far more important than Guild rules had been discovered in this remote station. The Empire had sent them to eliminate a threat. Instead, they had stumbled upon a truth that would shake the foundations of their civilization. Humanity's strength lay not in their technology or their physical capabilities, but in something far more powerful, their capacity for selfless action in service of others. Kixtall's report would trigger a crisis within the guild, but as they plotted a course away from Europa, they felt something alien stirring in their consciousness, something humans called hope. The guild's high chamber had never seen such chaos. Crystalline displays flickered with dozens of aborted mission reports as Guild Master HFY struggled to maintain order among the assembled assassination lords. Their most elite operatives were failing missions at an unprecedented rate, all because of humans. 17 contracts refused in a single lunar cycle. HFY's voice resonated through the chamber, their iridescent carapace pulsing with barely contained fury. Explain to me how the most sophisticated assassination program in known space is being undermined by a species that hasn't even mastered faster-than-light travel. Intelligence Director Miratel stepped forward, their usually pristine black exoskeleton now dulled with stress. The contamination is spreading faster than we anticipated. It's not just Kixtall's case anymore. Every agent we send to study humans returns changed. The holographic displays shifted to show their latest failed mission. Agent Zixra, previously responsible for the clinical elimination of an entire planetary council, had been dispatched to eliminate Marcus Wong, a human teacher working in a refugee settlement on Mars. The surveillance footage played, showing Wong teaching children from a dozen different species. Everyone has value. His voice carried through the recording. Everyone has something to teach, something to learn. That's what makes us strong together. Agent Zixra spent 3 weeks observing the target. Miratel continued. Instead of completing the mission, they submitted this. A new hologram appeared, showing Zixra's official report. Target demonstrates fundamental qualities necessary for galactic stability. Elimination would constitute crime against collective future. Request immediate reassignment and recommendation for target protection status. The chamber erupted in angry chittering. Protection status was reserved for beings considered essential to civilization's advancement. No human had ever been considered for such an honor. There's more. Miratel's voice cut through the chaos. Agent Zixra has resigned from the guild. They're currently teaching cynobiology at Wong's school. The silence that followed was deafening. In the guild's 12,000 years of operation, no agent had ever resigned. They either served or died in service. From the shadows, Elder Kavul spoke, their ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries. Show them the pattern analysis. Miratel hesitated before activating a new display. Complex neural maps appeared, showing before and after scans of agents who had been exposed to prolonged human contact. The changes were dramatic. We're calling it the humanity syndrome, Miratel explained. Extended observation of human behavior triggers unprecedented neural restructuring in our agents. They begin exhibiting traits we've never seen in our species: spontaneous altruism, voluntary resource sharing, concern for beings outside their immediate group. It's a weapon, one of the lords declared. Some kind of biological warfare. No. Elder Kavul moved into the light, their crystalline form bearing the marks of countless centuries. It's something far more dangerous. It's an idea. The display shifted to show hundreds of incidents across the galaxy. Guild agents teaching combat skills to the defenseless. Assassins establishing sanctuary networks for refugees. Operative cells transforming into community support centers. The humans aren't defeating us through force, Kavul continued. They're showing our people a different way to exist, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. HFY's color patterns shifted to deep crimson. Then we eliminate all humans immediately. Total species extinction before this contamination spreads further. Too late. Miratel's voice was heavy with resignation. Our analyst teams studying the extinction proposal have already requested asylum on human worlds. They claim genocide violates fundamental ethical principles they can no longer ignore. The chamber erupted again, but Elder Kavul raised a limb for silence. For 12 millennia, We have served the Empire by eliminating those who threatened its order, but perhaps their ancient voice wavered. Perhaps we have encountered something that deserves not elimination, but understanding. You can't be serious, X-Vax protested. You're suggesting we simply allow this contamination to spread, to infect our entire species with these feelings. I'm suggesting, Cavil moved to the center of the chamber, that after 12,000 years of taking lives, we might learn something from a species that has mastered the art of saving them. As if to punctuate the elder's words, a new alert flashed across the displays. Another elite assassination team had just gone dark after observing human emergency responders save a Crixan settlement from an asteroid impact. Their last transmission was simple. We finally understand what we've been missing. The ripples of doubt that had started with Kixtal's refused contract were becoming a tidal wave, and not even the mighty assassination guild could hold it back. The question was no longer whether humanity would change them, but how much of their old selves would remain when the transformation was complete. Dr. Luxera, the Empire's leading genopsychologist, stared at the data streams flooding her laboratory with a mixture of fascination and terror. After 3 decades studying human behavior, she was watching the impossible unfold across the galaxy. The latest incident report glowed on her primary display. An entire guild safehouse on Proxima Centauri B had been converted into a refugee assistance center. The assassins who once used it to plan eliminations were now organizing food distribution programs and teaching survival skills to displaced populations. "Play surveillance sequence 47 beta," she commanded. The holographic display shimmered, showing former guild operative Tyrix, once known as the Shadow of Arcturus, teaching a group of refugee children how to grow hydroponic gardens. "The key is patience," Tyrix was saying. "Their deadly poison glands now adapted to produce nutrients for the plants. Life finds a way to flourish if we give it the chance." Luxera added another data point to her growing analysis. The transformation of guild operatives wasn't just behavioral, it was physiological. Their bodies were literally adapting to serve life rather than end it. A priority alert flashed across her screens. Another incident, this time in the Sirius sector. She opened the feed to find something that would have been unthinkable mere months ago. A team of former guild assassins had intervened to protect a human medical convoy from pirates. The footage showed the assassins using their advanced combat skills not to kill, but to incapacitate. Their lethal efficiency repurposed to preserve life. The leader of the team, identified as former Death Squad Commander Kexvi, was recorded helping treat the injured pirates after the battle. "Why?" one of the pirates had asked, as Kexvi bandaged their wound. "Because that's what they would do," Kexvi replied, nodding toward the human medical team. "And they're right." Luxera's research assistant, Ventel, burst into the laboratory. "Doctor, you need to see this. It's spreading beyond the guild." New data poured in. Across Empire space, populations exposed to human influence were exhibiting unprecedented behavioral changes. Merchant houses were establishing free trade zones. Military units were refusing orders to suppress civilian populations. Even the notorious slave markets of the Orion Arm were shutting down as traders freed their cargo and converted their ships into rescue vessels. "It's like a cascade effect," Ventel observed, their analytical patterns showing genuine excitement, an emotion that would have been suppressed in the old empire. Each act of human compassion creates exponential growth in cooperative behavior among exposed populations. Luxera pulled up her latest neural scans. The changes in brain activity among affected individuals were remarkable. Centers for empathy and social cooperation that had been deliberately suppressed by millennia of empire conditioning were reawakening. "They're not just teaching us to be kind," she realized. "They're reminding us of who we used to be." Historical records confirmed her theory. Before the Empire's rise, their species had exhibited similar traits to humans: cooperation, altruism, social bonds. The Empire had spent thousands of years engineering those traits out of the population, creating the perfect hierarchical society. But humanity was unraveling 12,000 years of social engineering simply by existing. Their actions were like a key, unlocking potential that had been buried deep in alien genetics. A message from her deep-cover operative in the Sol system arrived. Observe human children sharing food with hungry alien refugees. Subjects previously conditioned to expect resource competition displaying immediate behavioral shift. Request permission to establish similar sharing protocols in Empire education centers. Luxera found herself doing something she'd never done in her career. She deleted the message instead of reporting it to her superiors. More than that, she began composing a new research paper, The Adaptive Advantages of Compassion, a study of human influence on galactic society. Dr. Ventel's voice was hesitant. This is treason against the Empire. No, Luxera replied, watching another feed of humans and aliens working together to terraform a dead world back to life. This is evolution. The Empire tried to make us perfect by removing what they saw as weaknesses. But the humans are showing us that our greatest strength lies in the very traits we were taught to despise. As if to confirm her words, a new alert showed a former guild assassination master opening a school for orphaned alien children. The building had once been a training facility for killers. Now laughter echoed through its halls. The human factor wasn't just changing individuals, it was transforming the very foundation of their civilization. And as Luxera documented each new case of spontaneous cooperation and compassion, she realized that the Empire faced a choice: adapt to this new way of existence, or be left behind by their own evolving population. Supreme Overlord Zixker stood at the viewport of the Imperial flagship, Eternal Dominion, watching their empire crumble not through war or rebellion, but through something far more insidious: hope. The latest reports scattered across their command interface told a story of unprecedented collapse. Entire sectors were declaring independence, not with weapons, but with declarations of mutual cooperation. The feared Imperial fleet, once the galaxy's most powerful military force, was experiencing mass defections as crews abandoned their posts to join humanitarian missions. My lord, High Commander Varix materialized in a hologram, their usually immaculate military bearing showing signs of strain. We've lost contact with the Arcturus Command Center. Rebellion. Zixker's outer carapace darkened with dread. Worse, they've declared themselves a free education zone. The command staff is converting the military installation into a university. They're calling it, Verkex's voice cracked, the Institute of Interspecies Cooperation. Zixker's secondary hearts nearly stopped. The Arcturus Center had been the Empire's premier military training facility for 5,000 years. Now its quantum computers were being reprogrammed to solve environmental challenges instead of calculating battlefield strategies. Show me, they commanded. The viewport filled with live footage from Arcturus, where once rows of battle-ready troops had stood. Now there were discussion groups. Former military instructors sat with students from dozens of species, including humans, engaged in passionate debate about galactic governance and sustainable development. It gets worse, Verks continued. The Imperial Bank has begun offering interest-free loans to former slave worlds for reconstruction projects. The Department of Population Control is releasing manuals on participatory democracy. Even the Ministry of Genetic Purity is proposing research into cross-species medical treatments. A new alert flashed across the command interface. The Imperial Palace's security force had just announced they were reorganizing as a community support service. Their fearsome crowd control weapons were being modified into terraforming tools. How? Zixker demanded. How are they doing this to us? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Melix, their personal physician, and one of the few staff members they still trusted, stepped forward from the shadows. They're not doing anything to us, my lord. They're simply showing us what's possible. Melix activated a secure channel, displaying footage from across human space. Scenes played out that defied everything the Empire had taught about the nature of intelligent life. Different species living together in harmony, sharing resources freely, solving problems through cooperation rather than competition. Our entire empire was built on the belief that order could only come through control, Melix explained. We created the guild to eliminate those who challenged this truth. But humans, they prove our fundamental assumption wrong simply by existing. Zixkra watched as a human settlement welcomed a group of refugee imperial citizens, offering them not just shelter but a chance to belong. The refugees' neural patterns, visible to imperial scans, showed the same transformation they'd seen in the guild assassins, the awakening of long-suppressed capacities for empathy and connection. The Empire's strength was our unity of purpose, Vertex observed. But humanity offers a different kind of unity, one based on choice rather than coercion. A priority message cut through their discussion. The Imperial Science Academy, keeper of the Empire's technological superiority, had just released its entire database to the public domain. The announcement read, "Knowledge, like compassion, only grows when shared." Zixkra sank into their command throne, feeling the weight of 12 millennia of history. The Empire had spent thousands of years perfecting systems of control, creating a society where every individual knew their place and purpose. They had achieved perfect order through perfect dominion. But now, in the face of humanity's chaotic, messy, beautiful way of existence, that order was revealing itself to be nothing more than a prison. Their people weren't just choosing a different way to live. They were choosing to truly live for the first time in millennia. "Your orders, my lord," Verix asked. Zixkra stared at the stream of reports, each one marking another crack in the Empire's foundation. They could still attempt to contain this, deploy the planet-killer weapons, sterilize human worlds, and eliminate all traces of their influence. But as they watched another group of Imperial citizens tearfully embrace their former enemies, sharing food and stories under an alien sun, they realized the futility of such actions. How do you kill an idea? How do you fight against the awakening of hope? "New directive," Zixkra announced, their voice carrying the finality of history being made. "Begin immediate dissolution of Imperial command structures. Initiate transition protocols." "Transition to what, my lord?" Zixkra watched as a human child on one of the feeds offered their meal to a hungry Imperial soldier who accepted it with trembling hands. "To whatever we're becoming." 5 years after the Empire's dissolution, the Great Hall of the former Imperial Palace hosted a gathering unprecedented in galactic history. Once deadly guild assassins sat alongside their former targets. Imperial scientists mingled with human researchers. Former slaves shared meals with their one-time masters. Kickstall, the assassin whose refused contract had started it all, stood at the speaker's podium, their crystalline form shimmering with colors that reflected their newfound capacity for emotion. Before them sat Sarah Chen, the human scientist they had once been sent to kill. She was now their research partner in the Galactic Restoration Project. "A decade ago," Kickstall began, their voice carrying through the vast chamber, "I was sent to end a life. Instead, I found a truth that ended an empire." The assembled beings, representing over 300 species from across known space, fell silent. This was the first public telling of the story that had changed their civilization forever. "We thought ourselves perfect," Kickstall continued. "We had eliminated uncertainty, suppressed emotion, engineered a society of absolute order. But in doing so, we had also eliminated our capacity to grow, to adapt, to truly live." Holographic displays activated around the hall, showing scenes from the transformation. Former Imperial worlds bloomed with new life as human terraforming techniques restored ecosystems. Guild safe houses transformed into community centers hummed with activity. The dreaded Imperial fleet, now the Galactic Humanitarian Corps, delivered aid to worlds they had once subjugated. Sarah Chen stood to join Kickstall at the podium. "We didn't come to teach," she said, her gray hair now completely white, but her eyes bright with purpose. "We came to learn together. Humanity's greatest strength was never in our technology or our resilience. It was in our ability to imagine a better way and our willingness to share that vision." The next speaker was former Supreme Overlord Zixker, who had exchanged their imperial regalia for the simple robes of a teacher. The Empire sought to create perfect order through control. But true perfection, we learned, lies in the beautiful chaos of cooperation. In the mystery of different species choosing to work together, to help each other, to build something greater than themselves. Images from across the galaxy showed the results of this new approach. The former Imperial Bank now funded interspecies cultural centers. The dreaded guild training facilities had become schools where children of all species learn not just survival skills, but empathy and mutual understanding. Even the fearsome biological weapons labs had been repurposed into medical research centers, developing cures that were freely shared with all worlds. Dr. Luxera, her xenopsychology research now focused on facilitating interspecies cooperation, presented the data that still amazed her. The neural changes we first observed in guild assassins have spread throughout our population. But we now understand this wasn't contamination, it was restoration. Humanity didn't change us. They awakened what was already there. Former Guild Master Anxvax, who had once called for humanity's extinction, now led the Galactic Peace Corps. We thought we were studying them, they admitted. But they were teaching us, not through force or instruction, but through example. Every act of kindness, every moment of unexpected compassion, every choice to help rather than harm. These were the weapons that defeated an empire 12,000 years strong. As the gathering concluded, a new alert spread through the assembly. Another dead world had just bloomed back to life under the combined efforts of human and alien terraformers. The celebration that followed wasn't ordered or controlled, but spontaneous and joyful, exactly as it should be. In the gardens outside the hall, Kixtol found Sarah Chen standing under an earth oak tree that had been planted in imperial soil. "Did you ever imagine this?" they asked their former target, now their closest friend. Sarah smiled, watching as children from a dozen species played in the shadow of what had once been the Empire's symbol of absolute power. Imagination, she said, was always humanity's secret weapon. We imagined a better way, and once you saw it was possible, you imagined it too. Above them, ships from across the galaxy arrived for the first Galactic Cooperation Summit. Not a single weapon was detected among them, not because they were forbidden, but because no one chose to bring them. The Empire had spent 12 millennia perfecting the art of control. Humanity had shown them something far more powerful, the art of letting go. In the end, it wasn't superior technology or military might that transformed civilization. It was the simple, revolutionary idea that different beings could choose to help each other, to care for each other, to build something beautiful together. The dawn of their new age hadn't come with fire and destruction, but with open hands and open hearts. And as the galaxy continued to transform around them, even the most hardened former imperial citizens had to admit, this chaos of cooperation, this disorder of mutual aid, this beautiful symphony of different species choosing to work together, this was a far more perfect order than control had ever achieved.